News at 6.
And we'll see you back here at 6.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. It is 3 weeks since the war began, and tough times lie ahead. So said the Secretary of State Jim Baker today. It was Mr. Baker's turn to say that Saddam Hussein's military capabilities should not be underestimated. Today, in the war, 2 Iraqi jets apparently trying to leave the country for Iran were intercepted by U.S. pilots and shot down. The Iraqis say that 281 missile raids and other air attacks were carried out against them in the last 24 hours. They say that in the southern Iraqi city of Nasiriyah, 150 people died, 35 of them were children. One Marine general said today that all of the Allied bombing was certainly taking a toll on Iraqi troops. Just how much of a toll is the subject of some debate. In Saudi Arabia tonight, ABC's Bill Rediker.
After 3 weeks, the Allied air campaign slowed down today. Some missions were canceled because of overcast conditions.
It makes us very visible from the ground looking up, and all they'll see is a black aircraft being tracked across the white underside of the clouds.
The British said they bombed 4 more bridges in Iraq, but they admitted that direct hits on Republican Guard positions have been difficult because Iraq is using decoys.
They've got these wooden tanks, I understand, covered in some sort of tinfoil or something that will actually reflect radar. And they're also, as a secondary option, they're also putting buckets of oil on top of perfectly serviceable tanks and lighting them to imply that they're down.
Pilots say the Iraqis are good at hiding their men and equipment.
All of the equipment is not just sitting out there in neat rows for us to go and engage.
U.S. military officers say B-52s are dropping bombs on Republican Guard positions every 3 or 4 hours. The results are unclear. The French today said 30% of the Republican Guards had been neutralized. The British said the idea is to lower their morale, not kill them. The Americans refuse to be specific.
We're dropping a lot of ordnance on the Republican Guard, not just to lower their morale, but also to destroy their tanks, their artillery, their logistical sustainment capability, their built-up areas. We're out there to destroy the Republican Guard.
American troops recently positioned near the border are being told it will be up to them to dig out what the Air Force cannot hit, well-entrenched Iraqi forces.
They also know how to fight in the desert, and we're still learning, still adjusting to that.
On the propaganda front, the Saudis today boasted they have airdropped 14 million of these pamphlets into occupied Kuwait. They encourage Iraqis to defect and promise them food and shelter and repatriation once the war ends. They also illustrate how to surrender, instructing soldiers to point their weapon to the ground and hold the pamphlet above their head. U.S. officers say 6 Iraqi soldiers turned themselves over to the Marines last night.
They're disenchanted with the war effort for the most part. They don't believe in what they're doing over there anymore.
But so far, after 21 days of continual bombing, only about 200 of Iraq's 500,000 soldiers have defected, making any judgment of their overall morale impossible. Bill Rediker, ABC News, Saudi Arabia.
6 months ago, when the first U.S. troops arrived in the Gulf, there were stories about the frightening Iraqi weapons they might have to face. Among them, something called fuel-air explosives. They spread destruction over a much wider area than conventional bombs. Those who remember Vietnam may recall that the U.S. also has fuel-air explosives and has used them. ABC's Bob Zelnick reports the U.S. may use them again.
In eastern Saudi Arabia, Marines were seen today stacking crates of the fuel-air explosives. The explosives can be dropped from B-52 and F-111 bombers. The bombs explode at an altitude of 150 to 200 feet, creating a mist of fuel which seconds later mixes with the air and ignites to produce a second, far more violent explosion over an area the size of 2 football fields. The pressure can shatter buildings and vehicles, while the combustion sucks up oxygen and suffocates enemy soldiers. But with Allied forces facing an enemy that is well dug in and protected by a vast network of landmines, fuel-air explosives could have significant military use.
Do we have anything in principle against fuel-air explosives? Not that I know of. It's a weapon like any other. It creates an overpressure and could be valuable in setting off mines.
Officials here say that fuel-air explosives have not yet been used against Iraqi troops, but are expected to be employed to aid the coming ground campaign. And with Iraq unable to use its air force, its fuel-air weapons are considered no threat to Allied forces. Bob Zelnick, ABC News at the Pentagon.
Joining us tonight from Washington is our military analyst, Tony Cordesman. Tony, try the Republican Guard question on again. Most people seem now to presume that the Republican Guard is going to do all the fighting, but put it in the context of the overall Iraqi army the U.S. is facing.
Well, Peter, if we look at the Republican Guards, they are at most some 6 or 8 divisions out of a total of 35 to 36. They are about a quarter of 4,200 tanks, about a quarter of some 2,200 other armored fighting vehicles, maybe a third to a fifth of some 2,200 to 2,500 artillery weapons.
Do any other soldiers in the Iraqi army have a better record of fighting than the Republican Guard?
Interestingly enough, they do. In many cases, it was the regular armored and mechanized divisions which actually did the key fighting during the Iran-Iraq War. Often the Republican Guards would be sent in to sort of get the glory, but they didn't do the hard fighting.
I reminded the people that they were called the Republican Guard, by the way, because they were meant originally to guard the Republic, i.e. Saddam Hussein. Tony, let me ask you the same question that General Kelly, the briefing officer, was asked today. If you do not know precisely how much damage you're doing to the Republican Guard or whomever else on the ground, how do you know when to begin the land war?
I think you're going to have to do something which everyone ultimately does in war, and that's make an educated guess. But I think we have to be careful. We know their supplies are down at least in part. We can confirm at least some kills. I would be surprised if we didn't have a 5 to 10% confirmed kill rate now. We do have at least some ability to get defectors using special forces. So I think we'll go in with a reasonable idea of how effective we've been, but with factors like morale, political dedication, controlled by an autocrat really determining how well they'll fight, there will be major things we can never precisely measure.
Tony Cordesman in Washington, thank you again. When the war began, a majority of Americans thought it would be over fairly quickly. Not anymore. 54% of the people ABC's polling unit talked to last night think the fighting will last 6 months or more. The overall support for the war effort remains high at 78% in favor of what is currently going on. In a moment, Secretary Baker's assessment of the war and some hints of post-war policy, why it is so difficult to learn how many people have died, the politics of the casualty counts, and digging the foxhole deeper as the war gets closer.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by the fun ships of Carnival Cruise Lines.
Know where I am? I'm at one of the finest resorts in the world. I love it because everything is right here. I can relax in the sun, eat marvelous food, enjoy a room with an ocean view. There's fabulous entertainment, friendly service, and it's all included in the price. But what makes this resort really fun is that it takes me to some of the world's other great vacation spots. Take a 3, 4, or 7-day fun ship vacation on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
I get this awful sinus pain, crushing, pounding. It's agony.
Are you still taking any of these sinus pain formulas? They all made news in the 80s. Surprisingly, they all have the same medicine. Today's news is Dristan Sinus. Only Dristan Sinus combines the leading decongestant with the modern pain reliever ibuprofen.
I found it relieves my sinus pain wherever it strikes, and no drowsiness.
So if you're taking the same medicine that made news in the 80s, get new Dristan Sinus, today's sinus medicine.
Since this war began, one of the political uncertainties has been how it will affect the Arab masses. Will they be so disturbed by the level of violence, including the sight of Arabs killing other Arabs, that they turn against those Arab governments which have been on the side of the U.S.? One of the most sensitive barometers of Arab public opinion at the moment is Jordan's King Hussein. And today he sounded off. Here's ABC's John McWethy.
In a televised address, King Hussein of Jordan angrily accused the United States and its allies of trying to destroy Iraq's economy, its culture, and its people, going well beyond what the United Nations was calling for. The king said, "Fire rains down upon the Iraqis, destroying mosques, churches, museums, and hospitals." He urged the coalition to accept an immediate ceasefire. In Washington, Secretary Baker testified that the only way to stop the war now would be for Saddam Hussein to get out of Kuwait and get out fast. Baker warned that there will be many casualties and great hardships ahead, especially for the Iraqis. Despite all that, the Secretary told the House Foreign Affairs Committee that when the war is over, the United States will have to help Iraq, not punish it, implying that there probably will be no war crimes tribunals, no war damages paid by Iraq.
The time of reconstruction and recovery should not be the occasion for vengeful actions against a nation forced by war as a result, forced to war as a result of a dictator's ambition.
For the first time today, Baker hinted that if Saddam Hussein uses chemical weapons against U.S. troops, the American response may include an attempt to remove the Iraqi leader from power. Many assume that the U.S. has been trying to do that all along by bombing Iraq's command centers. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
Another note about King Hussein. The White House says the U.S. has no argument with Jordan, but it believes the king has made a mistake to align himself so closely with Saddam Hussein, as the White House put it. What happens after the war, to come back to the Baker testimony, is not only a concern in Washington, but also in Tehran. Now, we've heard about the Iranians taking in Iraqi planes and offering to mediate between the U.S. and Iraq, which raises the question about just what it is Iran wants out of this war. Questions the Iranians are asking themselves. ABC's John McKenzie is in Tehran.
Throughout the country tonight, there were spectacular celebrations to mark the 12th anniversary of the Iranian Revolution, to mark the overthrow of the Shah and the return to Iran of Ayatollah Khomeini. But amid the festivities, there were also fears that somehow this country would be drawn into another war. For the past several weeks, Iranians have been stepping up military exercises and beefing up patrols along the Iraqi border, just in case the fighting next door spills over. People here have been told repeatedly by their president that Iran is neutral. The theory is it'll have greater power in the region if Saddam Hussein is defeated. But how long will they tolerate Western forces in the Gulf?
A lot of radicals want us to enter. A lot of extremists would like us to enter and be on Saddam's side.
America fight for oil, not for other things. For oil, and they want to remove our Islamic revolution.
Of course, I think people, they are tired of the war. Yes. We are tired, but if it's necessary, it will be necessary, we will go.
While there's plenty of activity in the bazaars, Iranians are starting to feel some of the effects of the war. Some imported goods like cooking oil, paper, and cigarettes have jumped in price by as much as 50%, as fewer cargo ships are willing to navigate the congested Persian Gulf. For Iranians, the good news is that today, for the first time since their war with Iraq, gasoline restrictions have been lifted. That's because refineries here have finally been repaired. Iran is just beginning to rebuild and recover from 8 years of war against Iraq. Now people here openly debate whether they should fight another war, this one on Iraq's side, in the name of Islam, against the United States. John McKenzie, ABC News, Tehran.
When we come back, the question of casualties in this war.
When you're all stuffed up and use an ordinary nasal spray, it drips into your tissue where it can't help you breathe. But not Sinex Ultrafine Mist. Its medicine stays where you need it, so you can breathe the way you want to. We don't drip down, we clear up.
I want to be a millionaire when I grow up.
No one ever says, I want to be a junkie when I grow up. Don't let drugs get in the way of your dreams.
I've really got to get some Z's.
Introducing single-dose maximum strength Nitol. Just one will help you fall fast asleep fast. New maximum strength Nitol. Just one Nitol will help you get a lot of Z's.
Sinus pain, sinus pressure, it really hurts. Sinutab combines Tylenol's painkiller with Sudafed's decongestant to work better than either one alone. It stops the pain. Sinutab stops sinus pain.
This good boy shares what he has with the rest of his class. This bad boy doesn't. There's only one Jeep Cherokee Sport. Save $700 on new 1991 Jeep Cherokees.
We come now to the debate over casualties. In other words, how many people are being killed? After almost 25,000 combat missions flown by Allied aircraft against Iraq and Kuwait, there have never been so many bombs dropped in so short a time. Why is it so hard to get a fix on how many people are dying? For one thing, neither side wants us to know what it knows. Here's ABC's Beth Nissen.
You are seeing a TV picture from the front end of the weapon coming in.
It can be a powerful weapon. Not just the smart bomb shown here, but the videotape itself. Images of a precise hit on an enemy target. No indication of what happened to anyone inside, anyone nearby. These are the images from the other side. No military losses, only the wreckage of neighborhoods, the remains of families.
It is to the advantage on both sides to carefully screen the amount of casualties, the type of casualties, and how they occurred, so as to try to achieve some sort of tactical advantage.
Each side in this war is trying to play the sensitive issue of civilian casualties to its own advantage. The Iraqis make daily claims of civilian losses, arrange media coverage of bomb damage. The Iraqis hope the sight of innocent people killed will encourage anti-war sentiment in the U.S., anti-American sentiment among the world's billion Muslims.
We have never said there won't be any civilian casualties. What we have said is the difference between us and the Iraqis is we are not deliberately targeting civilians.
Knowing the emotional and political impact of civilian casualties, the U.S. military has taken care to express regret over civilian losses, and equal care not to show them, estimate their number, even speak of them directly.
Collateral damage, I can't talk about that.
Collateral damage, anything or anyone hit outside the intended military target. And on military casualties, both sides are controlling information for political and strategic reasons. It is, for example, good military strategy for the Iraqis to be nearly silent on their own troop losses.
They don't want to show us that our military operations are effective.
The U.S., in contrast, has been open about its own battle casualties, which have been small. It has detailed its success against Iraq, but only in terms of targets destroyed, objectives achieved, not Iraqi troops killed.
I told you, I'm anti-body count. Body count means nothing, absolutely nothing.
The U.S. military is still sensitive to charges that it inflated enemy body counts in Vietnam, in Panama. This time, military briefers are not giving any estimates of enemy killed. They fear loss of credibility if their figures prove inaccurate. The U.S. is also afraid that confirmation of a high Iraqi body count might cause Arab coalition members to waver.
Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and so on are not going to want to see huge numbers of fellow Arabs being killed.
This whole business of casualties and tactical advantage can be summed up in one word: morale.
Morale at the battlefront and morale on the home front. Saddam tried to protect Iraqis from the demoralizing sight of thousands of war dead during the vicious war between Iraq and Iran.
Some of the casualties in battles were so severe that Saddam Hussein ordered the killed kept in cold storage for periods of time so that they could be released slowly.
The U.S. military is also worried about how many body bags the American public gets to see. For 20 years, U.S. military casualties have been honored in ceremonies at Dover Air Force Base. But for the Gulf War dead, the Pentagon plans no public honor ceremonies here, no televised coverage. Both sides know that controlling information on casualties, controlling the images of the wounded and killed, keeps at bay a quiet enemy of any army: doubt. Doubt among those left at home about what is being done in their name. Beth Nissen, ABC News, New York.
In other news today, the United Nations said it plans to deliver an emergency shipment of medical supplies to Baghdad next week to help children and their mothers. The International Committee of the Red Cross has already delivered 19 tons of food and medicine for Iraqi civilians. The American Red Cross says the shipments have been made with the approval of the United Nations and the knowledge of the U.S. Even so, they have been harassed by phone calls accusing them of helping the enemy. There's been a change in policy at Pan American Airways. A civil rights lawyer said today that Pan Am will no longer bar all Iraqi nationals from its flights. Iraqis with U.S. passports or permanent residents of the U.S. will be allowed to fly on Pan Am now. Iraqis who are not are still barred. We'll be back in just a moment.
Flu update. The Centers for Disease Control report. 3 highly contagious flu strains, and they're spreading unchecked. Millions will be stricken. What will you do? Doctors recommend Theraflu. Theraflu is hot liquid medicine. Strong therapy for flu symptoms. Hot liquid therapy that works fast. What will you do when you get the flu? Doctors recommend Theraflu. Strong therapy for flu symptoms.
Who guarantees overnight air delivery before 10:30 to the most places across the country? Who did you think?
Stouffer's invites you to eat like you really like to eat. Introducing 8 of your all-time home-style favorites, like tender Salisbury steak with our original macaroni and cheese, sliced turkey breast in gravy with homemade stuffing. And to tempt you even more, they're all under 370 calories. So dig in. They're new from Stouffer's.
They had just about given up before I got there. They knew they qualified for a Medicare benefit, and no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get it paid. But I've been trained by AARP. AARP's Medicare and Medicaid outreach program taught me how to get to the bottom of Medicare problems. They're not asking for special treatment. They just want the benefits they deserve. I'm just here to help make sure they get them.
AARP, making a difference. Who guarantees overnight air delivery before 10:30 to more businesses than anyone else in the business? Who did you think?
In the other news today, the White House has announced plans to send millions of dollars worth of medical aid to the Baltic republics, which had appealed directly to Washington for the help without going through the Soviet bureaucracy. The White House says the Soviet government was advised of the aid and did not object. President Bush flew to New York City late today to speak to business leaders. He will try to convince them that the recession will be brief and economic recovery not far off. Outside the hotel where the president spoke tonight, demonstrators gathered in the rain to demonstrate against the war. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials gained another 42.5 points to close at 2830, and the trading once again was very heavy. The entertainer Danny Thomas has died. It was quite sudden. Bob Hope said today he couldn't understand it. God must have needed some help. A reference, perhaps, to the fact that besides an entertainer, Danny Thomas was a serious philanthropist. Make Room for Daddy, the Danny Thomas Show, was the television version of the real life of a nightclub entertainer and his family. It was about Danny Thomas, whose warmth and unpretentious wit guaranteed the show's success from 1953 to 1964. And won Thomas 5 Emmys.
Oh, you're so right. She's got a level head. Something fell on it.
Danny Thomas was born Amos Jacobs to a Lebanese family in Michigan. He started out as a nightclub singer and a radio comedian. After an audition in Hollywood in the late 1930s, Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM, told him he had talent, but his nose was too big even for the big screen. So naturally, Danny Thomas turned his so-called liability into an asset on the small screen.
Holy smokes. I've locked horns with a horn bigger than my horn.
Thomas founded St. Jude's Hospital for Children's Diseases in 1962 and was its benefactor ever since. Danny Thomas died of a heart attack. He was 79. We'll have our final report in just a moment.
You know, that sign wasn't up there for more than a couple, 3 days. And bingo.
I've never seen a house move so fast. I've never seen a real estate outfit move so fast.
We're prepared to get the results you're looking for. The Prudential. You know us, we know real estate.
Nobody's gonna break my stride. Nobody's gonna slow me down. Oh no, I got to keep on moving.
You love life too much to let any of it pass you by. That's why you wear a TENS. A TENS doesn't fasten low at the hips. It fastens higher at the waist to help it stay in place and protect you snug and secure.
Nobody's gonna slow me down. Oh no, I got to keep on moving.
Before I even consider taking a medicine, I have to feel good about it. So before I switched from Tylenol to Advil, I did my homework. I found that doctors have recommended Advil over 50 million times, and that over 100 million people have tried it. That includes me. And you know, 2 Advil work better on my really tough headaches than 2 extra-strength Tylenol. Hey, I don't take just any medicine, but I do take Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Poison ivy, insect bites, rashes. Too many choices.
You only need one. Cordaid.
Stop the itch and heal the rash with a brand doctors recommend most.
Present Arms.
Cordaid, the only aid you need. Tonight on Nightline with Ted Koppel, doing business with the devil. Who helped make Iraq a major military power? And why is the answer embarrassing to the Allies? Tonight.
Find it this evening that feeling you get when you know something's coming, but you're not sure when, and you don't have much say about it anyway. That is pretty much the way it is for both Iraqi and American soldiers right up there at the front on the border between Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. It is a whole lot different than waiting for anything else. ABC's Linda Patillo is there.
For days now, the winds have blown from the north, cold and violent, bringing blinding sandstorms that make the front lines appear even bleaker. Here, where infantrymen live in fighting holes, they can hear the explosions of the Allied bombs just over the border each night. The next day, they dig deeper.
It's a lot friendlier down below. That's where you want to get. You want to get yourself as deep below the surface as you can go.
Now that they can hear it, the war seems much closer.
It sets in reality of what's really happening here. This ain't the movies. There's nothing glamorous about it. You know, we're dirty, we smell, we're hungry.
There is an edge to the waiting now, the knowledge that they too may soon be fighting. Each of those on the front lines has found his own way of coping with that. A sergeant writes a love poem to his wife.
It'd be easier to complete and endure the task at hand, knowing I'd be coming home to you, and not this hole in sand.
A corporal picks up the saxophone he has managed to keep with him so far.
I just kind of throw myself in there, I guess. And I don't come out until I have to. It's like an escape. It is an escape. It's an escape. It's, you hear that? Playing. None of that. I don't like to hear that. So when I'm playing, I don't hear it. The people around me when I'm playing, they don't hear it.
Until December, he was a college student, playing the blues back home at the Apollo Theater in Harlem.
We had the landlord blues. We had the I Ain't Got No Woman blues, and we had the economy blues. I got the war blues. War blues ain't like none of them.
Linda Patillo, ABC News, with the U.S. Marines in northern Saudi Arabia.
That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
And now,